Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Ego Friendly Banter. It feels so good to be back and recording an audio for this. So, today we will be talking about the first great fear, the fear of lions, and the internal emotion which is represented by them, which is pride. I will be talking about a couple of things in this audio, of course, and all of that is very experiential, very practical, something that I have observed in my own life, experienced in my own life, and I think can be helpful for you. And I will be very glad to read your perspectives on lions and pride. Okay, so we will be talking about healthy self-esteem and difference it has with pride. Then we will talk about unhealthy manifestations of pride. We will also be talking about a couple of examples, three faults in listening, which have been shared by Boka Rinpoche, although in context of students and learning, but I think it is applicable in all spheres of our life. Then I will also share antidotes, because what's the point of this video if I don't share them? And to become more aware of pride within yourself, even if you think that you're a very humble person, I think it is good to always be aware and know that pride might not always look like just being snobbish or being very arrogant. No, it has many faces, and I think we will touch upon a couple of them in this audio, and it might help you. Okay, then we will also talk about the base emotion, like the root emotion because of which pride arises, according to me. And once that emotion is totally healed, I believe pride, which is an effect of that cause, will go away, because you've healed the cause itself. Okay, so first things first, pride as an emotion is devoid of love. Okay, it does not have love in itself. And when something does not have love in itself, it is definitely an emotion not worth having, to be very honest. And I'm making a very bold statement here. Okay, we often say that I'm proud of you and I'm proud of this and that. In general language and general parlance, it has become very common to say these things, to say it very casually. But I think when this pride becomes a very important part of one's identity, that their entire being revolves around that pride, whether it's regarding a country, caste, color, creed, religion, education, academics, family they come from, the kind of house they have, the kind of career they have, and what not, the kind of gadgets they have. There are so many reasons one can be prideful. Once that becomes such an important part of their identity, one, it is very dangerous, because if that thing is taken away from them, they will have this really bad existential crisis, and they won't have anything to look forward to. One. Two, it means that it can impede their logical reasoning. Sometimes people become so attached to that particular thing and then even become defensive for it. You are ready to unalive yourself and others for it. If someone says something, you become very reactive. This is why a lot of terrorism and riots happen. And maybe let's say the fights which couples have, these very strongly held belief systems about genders, all of that, it is also pride. It can have many manifestations, even when parents think that their children don't know anything. We'll share about all these things. That is also pride. All of that is taking one far, far away from individuation, because individuation has no space for pride. It has no space for anything which talks just about the self. And self means self with small s, the ego, which mutates into this pride, which mutates into this weird sort of self cherishing, this attachment to yourself. For example, this unhealthy pride can become defensiveness against other person, let's say your parents or your friends, even your own self, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. You can become very reactive, even against your teachers. The moment some belief system, the moment something is challenged, this person will react like a volcano. I've also been there, so I know what I'm talking about. Okay, it can turn into arrogance, your achievements and all of these things, right? Or even vanity, the beauty. This person can become very self-serving. If someone comes in their energy who is not serving this image that they have of themselves, or even for the institutions, by the way, like some institutions are purely based on faulty ideologies, which, when questioned or challenged, these institutions can become very lethal. So you know what I mean. Okay, this is why all of rebellions take place. Rebellions are important, but we have to see what exactly are we rebelling against. Okay, Anyway, and I'm not here to preach, so I'm not going to tell you what to stand for and what not, but these are the things that you have to reflect on by yourself. So let's say this person has this inflated sense of pride, which can also turn into messiah complex. Okay. Extreme amount of judgment, hate against a person, community, anything whatsoever. It can turn into disgust, this weird sense of entitlement that the entire world revolves around them, and they might become extremely insecure, very competitive, might compare themselves to everybody on the planet, and the spiral always goes downward. It can never go up. It is a very basal emotion that kind of rots your soul slowly. So when we talk about healthy pride, whether it's in your country or your culture or whatever, which empowers you, it is not pride, it is self esteem. It is assurance of your own self. It is love that you have for that. No, it is something that gives you an anchor, something that gives you a sense of belonging, something that you are very sure about. That is what self esteem is. And your self esteem should always be internally sourced, which means no one should come from outside and tell you certain things and you accept that and then become very reactive and start fighting over certain things. It's pointless, and it makes you lose energy if nothing else, right? Because if you are sure about something, you will not be vulnerable. You will not need to defend it to a point of violence. You will debate, yes, if very important, if it becomes very necessary, but you will not exert yourself. And also, you won't even try to assert yourself either, okay? Because your confidence, what you know about yourself, what you know about what you believe in, comes from within, from your own experience. And no Tom, Dick, and Harry can come from outside and tell you anything because you strongly believe in it. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be arrogance that I don't want to listen to you and I'm not open to learning. I'm not open to anything that anybody else has to say because I know what I believe is true. No, it's not like that either. Also, there has to be this very healthy sort of balance in your belief system, in your attachment to your belief system. So you have to be flexible at all times, because it can be challenged at all times, but at the same time your reaction matters. How you react to it matters. Your openness to somebody else's opinion matters. People will keep on giving opinions no matter what, but you have to see if your humility, let's say, is coming from within because you're very humble about certain things, or is it coming from a point where you also expect somebody else to appreciate you, because that is also pride. If you're not reacting, but at the same time you're expecting somebody else to say, oh wow, you didn't react, and they are very impressed by it, and then they also agree that they are wrong and all of that. If you have all these delusions and these fantasies, then that is also a very subtle form of pride. But before we get into the root cause of pride, I want to talk about the three faults in listening, which I think can be very good example to understand pride. Okay. First is the overturned cup, second is the cracked cup, and third is the poisoned cup. And not only in education, but you can apply it to all spheres of your life, where a person is like an overturned cup, which means no matter how much water you keep on pouring, if the cup is overturned, you can never pour anything into it, right? Here, a person is just not open to listening to you. No, this is pride, that nobody can tell me anything. Okay, I know the best, I do the best, whatever I have is the best, and all those things, right? This can happen in relationships, in career. Let's say if you think that the project that you made is great, and your boss can't question you or whatever, and your boss ends up giving you a very nice suggestion, but if you are egoistic and if you are like an overturned cup, you might miss that suggestion, which might have taken your career to a next level. Even in relationships, let's say if a wife keeps on complaining about certain thing, which is correct, by the way, like if the husband listens to that particular thing and vice versa, their relationship might improve. But if the other spouse is completely deaf to what the other person is saying, you can imagine where the relationship will go, right? Because most of relationships break because of communication gaps. And then we come to cracked cup. This is pride of its own kind, where one thinks that they will remember everything. They'll remember the wisdom. They'll remember things for posterity. They hear from one ear and it goes out from the other, where they don't find the teachings or anything whatsoever, any communication, any anything that has been said to them, that has been discussed in front of them, important enough to retain. No, so it keeps on going out. You keep on pouring water into a cracked cup and it keeps on leaking away. So that wisdom and slowly relationship, etc., also keeps on leaking away. Your potential also starts leaking away. This is also pride in its own right. Then we've got poison cup, right, where there is so much hatred, malice, jealousy against the other person or an ideology, person, place, religion, that no matter how many times or how much good someone says for that particular person, place, thing, you will never be open to it. You will distort whatever is being said. You will distort the news, the teaching, the scripture to suit your own agenda and spread hate, because you have hate within, you have poison within, and that is exactly what's coming out. Okay, that is uh, what you will be giving to the world as well. That is also pride. Then there is spiritual ego that keeps on changing faces. Sometimes people get siddhis with sadhana, and that siddhi also becomes a source of pride, no? And they develop this ego that they have these spiritual powers. They start doing anything, to keep dominion over others. That is also pride. And all this will lead to more negative karma instead of positive. And if you know that the only way, when of course the guns did not exist, the only way to kill a lion was to strangulate it. So pride is not going to go just like that. You will need to starve it of oxygen. You will need to constantly be aware and not feed it. For example, if you know about Ravan, Ravan was constantly told by so many people in Lanka, like his army, that there is no chance that he will win. But he had so much pride in his bhakti, so much pride in his power, so much pride in his wealth, that he did not agree to it. And everybody knows what happened, right? He didn't turn back, and everybody knows that he eventually died, right? Other than this, we've got Bhishma Pitama from Mahabharata. He was an amazing man, but he was very orthodox, very prideful about this oath that he took, and everybody knows what followed because of that oath. Okay, this huge war. Then we've got Duryodhan. He was very powerful, very even very intelligent, but at the same time very tamasic, and he had this arrogance, this jealousy, extreme amount of malice, and all of this was fed into him, which means that he was conditioned to believe certain things against the Pandavas, and everybody knows what happens to him as well. And now we come to Nakul. He was a Pandav, and despite being a Pandav, he was not allowed in heaven, they say. Why? Because he was very vain. He had a lot of pride in the way he looked. Okay, he was very fond of looking at himself in the mirror. That is also pride. Then we have an example of Manjushri. They say that there was this monk who was praying atop a mountain, and Manjushri, he dressed up as a woman, a pregnant woman, and he went to that monk and asked for meals. So that monk had very little to eat. Okay, but when this pregnant woman, she went to him in tattered clothes and everything, and asked for food, that monk gave it to her. And then again she asked for something else, he gave it to her as well. And after that she said, I want food for my unborn child as well. And then that particular monk, he started shouting at her. He started saying that the baby in the womb doesn't need to eat food separately. And that is when the lady transformed into Manjushri. And then Manjushri gave a discourse on pride and ego and humility and all these things. Which brings me to the point that no matter what, the circle of karma keeps moving. What someone makes somebody else feel because of this closely held pride will come back to them, whether in this life or another. So, we will talk about the base emotion. I hope you're listening to me up till here. I'm sorry if it's a bit boring, but anyway, let's talk about shame. Where does shame come from? We have to go back to our childhood. If we are keeping our past life experiences aside, childhood is where all of this is stored in. If one has a stable childhood, let's say if a person achieves something, the parents say, we are proud of you, we are happy that you achieved this. And if the child is not able to get a medal or an award or whatever, perform well, the parents say that they are still proud of the child. They're still happy for the child. They still love the child, which means that their love is not conditional. Okay, this is a stable childhood where the child will develop healthy self-esteem. Why? Because the love is not conditional. But now we come to the negative aspects of it. How shame develops. Okay, one, of course, it develops because of bad experiences that one has. Let's say bullying. Sometimes it absolutely wrecks one's self-esteem. There is no pride at all, no sense of self as well. Yeah, like a person struggles with self-esteem throughout their life. That is also one aspect. But here we are talking about the negative aspects. Let's say if a person has parents who since childhood have extreme amount of expectations from the child. If they have siblings, then they keep on comparing these siblings, the excessive criticism, um, and their love, their validation, and even the child's worth, all of it depends upon the amount of marks that the child is getting, the amount of medals the child is getting, trophies that child is getting, how he's or she is performing in athletics and education or whatever. And I know that I might not be the only one who has been on the receiving end of it. And the love of parents was always based on the achievements, on the worldly pride that they could get from a child's achievements. Sometimes you might have observed that there are parents who keep on comparing their children to their cousins or to their neighbors, all of that. It instills very deep rooted shame in a child, very deep rooted. And if it is not wrecking a child's self esteem, it will turn into very bad pride. So, all these people who are prideful, they have this immense fear of shame, immense fear. They are extremely fearful of being told that they are wrong, extremely fearful of being shown a mirror that whatever they are doing is wrong. And the thing is that they already know all of it. It's just that they don't want to face the reality. Okay. Other than this, there can be excessive amount of criticism, this dismissal of a child's belief systems, of what they want, not even acknowledging what a child is feeling, trying to gaslight the child over and over again. All of that all of that will turn into shame. Now this shame can turn into self blame, that the child keeps thinking that she is responsible for every wrong thing that is happening to her and happening to her parents. Or the child will have excess amount of negative motivation, like I will prove myself to my parents. And this starts this cycle of hate and malice against the parents, whether or not the child knows. And this keeps on increasing and turning into malice, hate, jealousy against all authority figures, against others. When it crosses this threshold of being a malice against authority figures and um, turning into malice against almost everybody, the entire world, the child never knows. Okay, so this child will become very extremely focused on their career, and to a point where they sabotage their relationships, they sabotage everything else. Why? Because they are so hell-bent on proving themselves. Since that security is not coming from within, this security is not internally sourced. There's still somewhere that inner child is seeking validation, is still trying to repress or suppress that shame, I believe. And then, of course, we have parents who are very emotionally unavailable, parents or guardians or whatever, who are emotionally unavailable. Now, this can happen because they don't have the capability to be emotionally available, or they're just not there, okay, for various reasons whatsoever. And this child, they won't accept help, they won't be open to receiving love. Okay, even if they get love, again, the relationships will suffer, whether it's romantic or friends or even in career. Okay, so all of this is coming from this deep rooted shame which was given by the parents. Now here we are not blaming the parents, because parents are also conditioned in certain ways, but the way to individuation, to realizing your own self, to healthily building your own self-esteem, is knowing what to reject and what to heal. Okay, so this is what I believe. Like everyone who is prideful wants to prove something, wants to defend against something, because they don't have self-esteem enough, they don't have self-worth enough, that is internally sourced, that is not dependent on external things. Like everyone who is prideful, everyone who has this need, this dire need to defend something, you know, even if violently, to be chaotic in others' lives, is a person with very deep rooted shame, fear of shame. They're very scared to face the mirror. Okay. And it's not just them, when I say them, it can also be us, it can be me, it can be you. So we have to look into the mirror and we have to see where exactly are we becoming reactive, where exactly are we becoming a ticking time bomb, when are we not accepting anything, where do we feel this extreme need to react. That is where our shame is. That is what we need to heal. Where do we need to prove ourselves? So I hope I made myself a bit clear. And now coming to the antidotes, okay, what we can do to heal ourselves, to heal this shame. One is, of course, finding where that shame is coming from. Was it because of a friend, an experience that you had somewhere, whether in school or with your parents or your neighbors or in your career? Is there any need that you feel to dominate somebody else, to dominate any conversation, to dominate any relationship? See that. Are you taking extensive pride in anything, whether it's your, as I mentioned before, caste, color, creed, culture, religion, country, etc., etc.? And same thing goes for yourself. Are you trying to defend yourself almost toxically? In relationships, is it pride? No, sometimes it becomes very important to voice our opinions, to speak up for ourselves, to speak up in groups. Whenever there are debates about certain things, where it becomes very important and almost non-negotiable to speak. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the downtrodden, or I'm not talking about those who suffer at the hands of powerful people. No, not that. I'm talking about a person, a common man who is living a normal life, who is on a spiritual path, and who is reflecting on the self, and is on the path to individuation. I'm not talking about a person who is totally and completely in a survival mode. You cannot expect them to understand these things because they're already in survival mode. They are so focused on winning their daily bread that all these things, they might make no sense to them. Okay. Because their entire focus is on those basal level emotions itself, and the only way that they know reality is through those basal level emotions. And it doesn't really mean that a person who is, let's say, suffering in that sense, or does not have enough to eat, or is poor in the worldly language, cannot be enlightened. Absolutely not. Never think like that. Okay. Some people who have absolutely nothing on their body, they don't have a home or anything, they sleep in temples, they are much more enlightened than anybody that you can ever meet. Now we come to the antidotes of this. One, try to replace whatever gives you pride to what gives you joy. If you are doing something because you think that you will get validation, you'll get appreciation, you'll get accolades, awards, if it'll get you featured in news, replace it with what gives you joy. Very, very important. The moment you start getting joy from what you do, all the work that you put into the world will become your sole purpose, because it will benefit entire humanity. As a human being who is on the path, if something is not benefiting the entire world at some level, even with little, like these ripple effects, you will never get joy. And I think this is a litmus test that you can do. Then we've got pondering over interdependence. Your dependence on what you wear, what you eat, what you do, what you sleep on, your house, every single thing. Let's say there's a cup that you're drinking your tea in. That cup was made from clay, which was then taken by a very generous person, molded it, then it was touched by fire, and then there were people who took it and sold it from a wholesale market to a retail market. And then you went to the shop, there was a shopkeeper who kept it in his shop, and you got it home. Now it's holding this water for you. And Even in the tea, you had to put so many things to make this experience of drinking tea very meaningful. Every single thing is interdependent. When you have even one single spoon of honey, you are literally taking in so much hard work of a bee. The sunlight came to the plants grew, there was wind because of which pollination had happened. The bee came, the bee drank the nectar, went back to its hive, produced this honey. Somebody went, these beekeepers, they had procured that honey, then they sold it. Similarly, it came to you. You are drinking sunlight in that very moment. You're drinking all those elements which are in that honey. Okay, drinking that labor of a honeybee. So you get what I mean, right? Every single thing is interdependent. We cannot exist without the other. We are so intricately dependent on each other for our existence. Your ideas, your energy affecting everything else in the universe, and everybody else's and ideas, energies affecting you as well. This gadget that you hold in your hand, if you're listening this far, it is also because of somebody else's thinking. And now you are listening to this some random girl speaking from somewhere in the world. Every single thing is dependent on each other. Even when you're in isolation, your energy is going far and wide. Also contemplate if the faults or flaws that you find in others, do they exist just in others, or can they be in you as well? So before correcting somebody else next time, maybe check within yourself. Then there's this Samarpan meditation that I often recommend. It is mostly like prostration. You lie down completely, and then you bring all your awareness to your feet, to your legs, to your hips, then to your heart and your head, and then you imagine this beautiful energy coming from your guru to you and flowing in every part, every organ of your body. Very helpful, very helpful. I think makes you humble as well. Okay. And also be open to learning. Be open to learning. The more you read, the more you come across things that you don't know, I think the lesser your pride will be. Join some kind of community, let's say NGOs, or visit more hospitals, volunteer more for earth, for shelters, do those kind of services. Meditate more, read more about, and practice more loving kindness, practice more gratitude for everything that you have. Maybe the life that you are living is a dream for somebody else. Okay, so be more grateful. All this will evoke more joy, more sense of purpose. If you feel that there is even tad bit of pride that you have in yourself, which might make you look down upon others, even if tad bit, very very little extent, like little percentage, still that has to be eradicated. And just because I'm saying all these things doesn't mean that I'm some goddess of compassion and all of that. No, 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 absolutely not. I'm I'm not. Okay, these are just reflections, and I apply them to my life as much as I ask everybody else on this channel too. Check with yourself if there are other qualities that you need to make your life better. You might have some things that you need to get rid of, or might have some goals to achieve, but you also know that you have habits that you need to eradicate or get rid of, or maybe new habits that you need to achieve those goals. What are those? This also brings a lot of humility within us. And also, as I said before, please, 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 please work on shame, work on your self esteem. It has to be internally sourced. You have to know yourself, know your worth, know that no amount of achievement or no amount of money or whatever you can earn uh, can make somebody love you, and if they love you because of all these external things, external factors, then that love is not real, it is conditional. Okay, because that person might also be a victim of conditioning, but we are not blaming them. Here we have to correct ourselves. Work on your solar plexus, heart and root. Heart will bring a lot of compassion for yourself and others. Root will eradicate these fears, eradicate shame. Okay, work on your sacral as well. Be more creative. Get all those energies out, and maybe you'll know what your psyche is trying to explain. And I really hope that this video did not really sound like a projection, because trust me, it was not. I think it is very important to talk about these things. It is very important to understand these things a little more deeply. And I believe that I am not very articulate while speaking as much as I am while writing. So if anything was amiss, I'm really, really sorry. And lastly, I would like to mention that self talk is very important, and positive self talk is even more important. Okay, so break this loop of shame, of inducing shame in yourself, in those you love, those who love you, and also your children if you have them. Lots of love. Goodbye.